Welcome to Waupaca Local Live. I'm Marcy Boku, and we have a really special show tonight. We have got a wonderful presentation here in the lovely Danes Hall down at the end of North Street in Waupaca. And our special guests tonight are Michael Kohler and Linda Harmon. Michael is one of the owners of the Danes Hall, and Linda's a wonderful pianist. And Linda, that first song that you just played was Golden Glow, right?
Right.
And the topic of our show tonight is the music of Eddy Hanson. So as everyone knows who listens to our show, we like to promote original music, and Eddy Hanson was a Waupaca original, was he not, Michael?
He certainly was.
The only thing is, he's not alive anymore. So we are doing a posthumous show, correct?
That's correct.
Now Michael is, like I said, the owner of Danes Hall. And thank you so much from the community for restoring this, by the way.
You're
It's
welcome.
Beautiful.
You're welcome.
I remember sneaking in here with my kids when we first moved to town. It was kind of a shambles, so it's much more beautiful now. So Michael's intent is to restore the building and start using it, and we are using it for this show, and later on we'll be doing many other programs here. So obviously you have an interest in history, and that is not just the history of the building, but also Eddy Hanson. So tell us what led to that history interest of Eddy Hanson.
Well, first, my first step in the history of Waupaca goes back, of course, to my childhood, but then I bought this Danes Hall. And the main purpose of buying Danes Hall was I was afraid that it would be torn down if somebody didn't do something with it. It was not in great shape, and so I purchased Danes Hall. My family's history goes back 5 generations in this town, back to the days when the Danes Hall was first built. So I became interested in Eddy Hanson, mainly as I became interested in the history of this building and the history of the people who came here and the immigrants. And as I was doing that research, I ran across the name Eddy Hanson in a newspaper article. And that just brought back memories of when I was a teenager, coming to town and going to Simpson's Restaurant on South Main Street, where Eddy Hanson played in the evenings.
Right, and they used to have a piano in there.
Piano and organ. He played organ too.
Okay, so you actually heard him play.
I did.
You did.
I did.
And so that kind of triggered that memory for you, and
That's correct.
You tried to find out more about him.
Well, one of the things in the article it said was that he was born in 1893.
Okay.
And so right away that came to me, wait, this is like 2018 is his 125th birthday. Why don't we do something to bring back some of Eddy Hanson's music for his 125th birthday? I missed that date. But that's okay, because I think Eddy was lying about the year he was born. I think he was actually born in 1898, 5 years later. So much of the documentation says he was born 5 years later, so we still have a chance to...
Okay, so we still have our 125th anniversary opportunity.
That's
right?
correct.
Okay, so Eddy Hanson, was he born in Waupaca?
Eddy Hanson was actually born in New London.
Okay.
But he was a child when he came to Waupaca with his family, so his family moved to Waupaca. If he was born in 1898 or 1893, by the year 1900, he was already listed on the census, so the census would have been taken, and his family was listed as Waupaca residents in that 1900 census.
Okay, and he was a musician, but was he a young musician, an older musician?
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's really interesting question you asked there, because he became interested in music at a very young age. His mother played piano, and his father played, I believe he played trumpet and violin. And he was a musician in the city, his father. He would play at various venues, and he also would play in the city band, his father. So he became very interested in music. In fact, you asked if he was interested in music at a young age. He wrote Golden Glow, which you just heard there. He wrote that when he was in 8th grade.
Okay.
So he was very interested in music at a very young age. He was already writing and composing music in grade school.
Wow. So Linda, as a pianist, a professional pianist, tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to play the piano.
My grandparents lived with us, and instead of paying rent, Grandma gave us piano lessons. So I started taking piano lessons when I was 5.
Oh my gosh.
And when I was in maybe 7th or 8th grade, we're driving home from the dentist, and I hear this lady on the radio. I was like, oh my God, that's a high E she's singing. I thought, how did I know this? And I came into the house and I found the piano and I played Sure enough, that was right. So,
So you have
turns out I have
perfect
perfect pitch, which
Awesome.
took me a while to learn. It was great when I was in college because dictation was easy.
Wow.
And it also helps working with singers and instrumentalists because you know what notes they're playing.
Yeah.
I guess my interest in ragtime sort of started in college when I was studying with a jazz instructor at Lawrence. I guess might as well tell you, he's now my husband.
And he's been into Waupaca for our, Arts on the Square, by the way, John Harmon.
Yes,
Yep.
that's correct. And he was trying to teach me jazz, and I was awful. I just couldn't get the hang of it. But I played a ragtime piece for him once, and he's like, wow, you're really good at that. And so that was encouraging, and I just kind of had fun playing it.
That's really great. So to bring this all full circle, Eddy Hanson, when he was sort of at his peak of writing, or his probably the highest point in his career, I think, was the ragtime music. Maybe I'm not correct on that, but he was a ragtime player, and he wrote a lot of pieces that were in that style. Is that right?
Yeah, so the early 1900s,
Okay.
the early 20th century was the era of ragtime.
Okay.
And he actually wrote a song, again, at a very young age, which was called Rattlesnake Rag.
Okay.
That was the genre of the time, ragtime.
Okay.
Piano was it, and that's where it started on the piano. And it also got some steam with the silent movies. So
Right.
rag and silent movies kind of went side by side. So he got into
Okay.
rag at that period of time.
That's so interesting. And so actually, you're going to play a ragtime piece. Are you gonna play
Rattlesnake Rag.
Rattlesnake
Yeah.
Rag. Let's have another song.
Okay.
Linda Harmon on piano. Thanks for joining us at Waupaca Local Live, and that was really great, that song, Rattlesnake Rag. So, a million questions about that, just about that style of music. So, you know, our fans are many, many fans on Waupaca Local Live, know that I am a piano teacher, and you were a piano teacher as well. Did any of your students play ragtime?
A few of them.
Yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it?
It's a very distinct style, and you have to
Yeah.
kind of get a feel for it. Not everybody can do that.
Right, it's that.
Yeah,
thing.
and a lot of
Oh my
whoa,
God.
chick.
I can't even imagine doing that, seriously. So you have a medal on, a Medal of Honor. You were competing in a ragtime competition, is that right?
Yeah, I did it for probably 10 years, and I made the top 6 one year and got my 3rd place medal, so I'm very proud of it. I wore it today.
I would be proud of that too.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
The competition level there just became something fierce.
Wow.
It was pretty intense.
Okay, yeah. I just think it is such a narrow style that you have to really develop that skill of basically playing the entire keyboard,
It
right?
depends on the pieces.
Okay.
I mean, Solace, Scott Joplin wrote Solace, and that doesn't cover nearly as much of the keyboard
As this one did.
Rattlesnake Rag did.
Okay.
But that's still ragtime.
Right.
And for this contest, pieces had to be 1929 or earlier.
Oh.
So there was a definite cutoff date.
Very specific.
Yep.
Okay. And Eddy Hanson was writing in that time period, and then he continued to write even as that time period faded, and not really faded, but things changed. You know, the musical styles changed. It seems to me that he was writing in lots of different styles. Is that right?
Yeah. Eddie Hanson eventually, when he was playing in the local theaters and he got to know a lot of people. He got to know some very important, famous people. And eventually he found his way down to Chicago. And the next piece we'll talk about, Desertland, was he entered a contest.
Okay.
And that was a foxtrot, and he entered a contest for that one. And then the result of the contest, which he won, was that the publisher that was down in Chicago said he would publish 4 of Eddie Hanson's songs that year if he would write them. So he went down and started working for the publisher in Chicago.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that was in the early 1920s, I believe.
Okay.
And believe it or not, in 1921, if you look at the copyrights, he wrote over 50 songs that year.
Wow.
In 1921. In 1922, he wrote about 60 songs. So he just wrote tremendous amount publishing through this publisher in Chicago. And yes, the genre changed too. He also got into playing the organ, which was another interesting story. Don't want to get into detail, but there was a gentleman over in this area too. His name was Dan Barton.
Okay.
And Dan Barton developed this really classic organ. And when I say organ, these things were massive. When you went to the big Chicago stadium in Chicago, where they play the sports, the big organ there was a Barton organ. Barton came from Amherst, Wisconsin.
Really?
Nice.
Yes, and he developed this
Is this
grand
like the center
organs.
of the universe here?
You could do all these
Waupaca,
grand
Amherst,
organs,
Iowa?
and Barton will tell the story that he developed this organ, and he was working with pianists, and they were trying to figure it out. And then in walked 12-year-old Eddie Hanson up to his keyboard, and he said that kid brought out more sounds from that
Wow.
instrument than he could imagine.
So super
So
talented.
he put one in the Doty Theater in Neenah, and hired Eddie Hanson to show people what this instrument could do. So.
Oh, so I wonder if that's the Neenah connection to Eddie Hanson, because I know we were trying to find some information and some sheet music, and Neenah Historical Society has a little cache of his stuff.
Yeah.
And they have links on their Historical Society website, which was kind of like, he should be on our website.
Yeah,
Because he's
they
a
actually
Waupaca
wrote a
person.
play. They wrote a play about him, and they performed the play.
That's
so.
right, that's right. We should do that here, but
Absolutely, that'd be a
next
great idea.
project. I just wanted to show this sheet music, though. In the day, the sheet music, of course, was the music that you play, but the cover art was phenomenal.
Beautiful work.
For this stuff, and I really love it. We're kind of developing a little collection here. Mike has some. You have originals, right?
I have a lot of the originals, and
Right.
we're trying to get them reproduced.
And we've been getting them reproduced at Chain Litho, and she's doing a fabulous job. They're like, you almost want to hang this on your wall. They're so beautiful.
They're just gorgeous work.
Yeah. So the next song we're going to hear is Desertland, and it's not ragtime.
It's a foxtrot.
It's a foxtrot.
Are you gonna talk
So
about
what
the
would a
tom-toms?
foxtrot? It's not a 3/4. It's not like a waltz.
Nope.
So it's like a 2/4, right, or cut time? Not to get too
Yes,
music theory.
I don't know. Is it cut time?
Well, it's got.
I didn't pay attention.
I didn't pay attention either.
No, it's just 4/4.
It's just 4/4 time.
Yeah,
Okay.
common time.
All right. So foxtrot was a specific type of dance that we don't really call our dancing certain dances anymore, really.
Well, actually, in classic ballroom dancing, they still, one of the categories that they
Is
most
the foxtrot.
is the foxtrot. They have
Right.
to dance the foxtrot. It's kind of a quick step
Okay.
song.
All right. So you ready to play the
But this is
Desert
when
Land?
this is when he won the contest for and
Okay.
started his work in Chicago.
The award-winning
talk about the
Desert
tom-toms
Land.
afterwards?
Yeah, well, we
What's
can talk
that?
about the tom stuff. There's a part in this because it's I always imagine this one. It's got a very interesting style to it, but this is a day of silent movies, and so it's got the style of the old silent movies. And there's one part in it which it says tom toms on the bottom of it, where you'll see.
You'll hear it.
Oh, yeah.
You'll
Okay.
hear the tom-toms going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You'll hear her kind of boom, 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 boom,
It's
boom.
not just me banging because I'm mad or anything.
So, well, that is an interesting thing that you said, though, is that a lot of this music also either it was written for a movie or it was used to accompany a silent movie.
Absolutely.
Programmatic.
Boy, if any kids are listening to this, they're probably like, what are you talking about, right?
What's a silent movie, right?
All right, Linda, you ready to play?
Sure.
All right, Linda Harmon on Desert Land by Eddy Hanson. We are live at the Danes Hall with Michael Kohler and Linda Harmon, and that was fantastic. I could just imagine a silent movie when you were playing that. It really is interesting to hear all of the stuff about the song and then to be able to imagine it. So thank you so much for coming out and
Well, you're welcome.
playing on their show with us. It's
it's
really a great tribute to
Fun stuff.
Eddy Hanson. His real name was Ethwell, right?
Correct. Ethwell was his
Who
name.
names their kid Ethwell? What a drag. No wonder he called himself Eddy.
Well, I think the good thing is, in today, when you're trying to find information on him, if you look Ethwell, it's only about him.
Right. If
Look
you
up
go
on the
Eddy
internet,
Hanson,
search for Ethwell, and you'll find
Right.
only him. So.
Right. Yeah. So I want to just say a funny thing is that you have an Excel spreadsheet of
I
all
do.
of this music with links and where it exists and all kinds of. I mean, you should probably. That's like your part-time job, right?
That's my evening.
It's your
I'm way into the early morning hours.
Is it safe to say it's an obsession?
Yeah, it probably is an obsession. I
mean, what do your kids say? Oh, Dad is obsessed with this.
Oh
Eddy
yeah,
Hanson."
he's found another piece of music, because I really get excited when you find a new piece, because I mean the pieces that you're showing are 100 years old,
Yeah.
and they're hard to find.
It's really amazing that you have it. It's like, and so what you're doing is really awesome. You've got these original pieces of music. You're making these historic reproductions of them. They're beautiful, and they're high quality, so people could actually borrow these. We haven't quite figured that part of it out yet.
Right, right.
But then you're sending the originals to the UW-Madison.
I'd love to send them to UW
Yeah.
Madison, because the Mills Library down there, the music library, they have some of his collection. So they have
Yeah.
about 35 of his pieces down there. So and I have some they don't have,
Right.
and they have some I don't have. So
Okay.
I'm hoping we can collect them down there, and also here at the Waupaca Historical Society.
Right. Yeah, the Historical Society's been really great to work with on
They've been
this. So,
wonderful.
yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about Eddy Hanson before we have our final piece by Linda?
You know, we took ourselves kind of through the 20s,
Right.
but Eddy Hanson was performing and writing music well into the 70s and 80s. So
Yeah.
he had a very long period of his, and he kind of always adapted to the era. You know, in the when country music came out, he wrote several country pieces.
Right.
when the dance halls were a big rage, he played, he wrote polkas and waltzes for the dance halls of the day. So he was really kind of a very long period. It's almost like he himself explains the history of music of the 20th century.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting when you think of it that way. And then he ended up moving back to Waupaca, and he played at Simpson's.
He came back here in his elderly age. I probably got to know him when I went down to Simpson's. He was probably in his late 70s, early 80s at the time. And he played there on weekends. And eventually he retired in his 80s to the Wisconsin Veterans Home.
Okay.
Because he was in the Navy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was in the Navy, and actually when he was in the Navy, he played with John Philip Sousa.
Wow.
So he played with John Philip Sousa and toured the country with John Philip Sousa.
So, but there's not really many family members around. Now, if anybody's listening to this and you're a family member, contact Mike, okay, because he's obsessed with Eddy Hanson. But seriously, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of...
he does have a few relatives in the area. His sister was Peggy Hanson Dopp.
Okay. Dopp Farms.
The Dopp Farms, just south of Waupaca. So Peggy wrote a book called Tomorrow's a River.
Oh.
And so she was the author of that book. So
wow, what an artistic family.
They were kind of interesting. And
are you going to get obsessed about her now?
Well, she actually was a childhood friend and classmate of my grandmother. So that's how.
Oh, for Pete's sake!
So that's how I actually first met this Eddy Hanson, when my grandmother would want to listen to him play in the restaurant down on South Main Street. So.
Oh my gosh, that's
So, yeah.
fantastic. What a great story. And I'm really glad that you're obsessed with him, because it's just bringing another element to Waupaca that we can be proud of. And of course, everyone knows I love Waupaca.
I want to add one last thing.
Okay.
And this is that, one of the songs he wrote, which I think should be played much more often in the state of Wisconsin, is the Wisconsin Waltz.
Okay.
So he wrote the Wisconsin Waltz, which is the official, state legislature down in Madison declared it the official waltz of Wisconsin. So
I think that was in 2001, wasn't it?
yeah,
2001?
it was in the 80s. Maybe it was very. It was.
He wrote it in the 80s, but I think it was
Yeah.
2001 that
So
it was
it's really kind of
so
beautiful.
proclaimed.
Yeah.
Well,
So it should be played more often.
That's
and,
awesome.
Yeah,
We'll have to let Mark Krishak and the city band know that.
it should be played at every band concert
Yeah.
in town.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much for coming. And we've got one more song. What are we going to play this, or what are you going to play?
The Windy City Polka.
The Windy City Polka, and
Yes.
I'm assuming that means Chicago, where he did live for a long time, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right, the Windy City Polka with Linda Harmon playing Eddy Hanson's music. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.